I was reborn at 18, determined to fulfill the wishes of my husband and older sister from my past life. Little did I know they had also been reborn. Subscribe now, the story begins. When Michael forced that glass of poisoned wine down my throat in the corner of my twin sister Carol's funeral, his eyes held not a shred of the affection we'd shared over 10 years of marriage. Only a near-mad sense of relief. "Haley, don't blame me for being ruthless," he murmured into my ear, his voice sickeningly tender. "Without you, Carol wouldn't have wasted away to death trying to make us happy. She was so kind, so perfect. This life was my debt to her. Next life I'll marry her. She was always my one true love." My body burned like it was on fire, my consciousness rapidly fading. I stared at the man before me, the husband I had worked tirelessly to fund his education. The man I had stood by through a decade of obscurity, now raising a knife against me for my sister Carol, who had just passed away. So in his eyes, my sacrifices were chains, my very existence an original sin. Go to hell. I forced a broken curse from my throat. Summoning the last shred of my soul's strength, I grabbed the sharp steak knife from the table and plunged it into Michael's carotid artery. Blood splattered across my face, warm and foul-smelling. Before my consciousness plunged into endless darkness, I heard his terrified gasps and the maniacal laughter echoing deep within my own heart. "If hell awaits, Michael, I want you to walk there ahead of me." "Haley, where the hell have you been? Get your ass out here and work." The shrill curse pierced my eardrums like sharp needles. I snapped my eyes open, gasping for fresh air as my heart pounded wildly in my chest, threatening to burst through my ribs. No bloodstains, no excruciating pain. The yellowed ceiling met my gaze. Sunlight streamed through narrow windows, dust particles dancing in the air. I looked down at my hands. No ring marks, skin taut and porcelain white, fingers slender and untouched by time. I was reborn. Back to 18, that summer that changed the course of my life. "Mom, please stop calling her. Sister might still be upset about failing the exam." A voice as fragile as a snapped daffodil drifted from the living room. A chill ran through me. I'd recognize that voice even if it turned to dust. My twin sister, Carol. I slipped silently from the bed, tiptoeing barefoot to the door crack to peek out. In the living room, my biased mother, Kelly, was affectionately hugging Carol. Spread out on the table was an elegant envelope. It was an acceptance letter from an Ivy League university. In my past life, I had clearly performed well on the exams, yet I never received the letter. My sister lied, saying I'd failed. Mom forced me to work and support the family. Later, Carol and Michael were secretly involved, yet Mom arranged for me to marry Michael, then penniless, while Carol married far away to the big city, all because Mom favored her. "Mom, this offer is what Haley risked her life to earn." Carol stroked the envelope, a sinister smile curling her lips. "If she found out the school actually accepted her, she'd go mad, wouldn't she?" Carrie snorted coldly. "Why would she go mad? She's always been tough. She was meant to stay in town working to support the family. You're different, Carol. You were born to live a life of privilege. Don't worry, you're twins, identical. Who'd notice if you went to school here? Mom, you're so kind." Carol buried her face in Kaylee's chest, her voice tinged with a chilling calm. "This time, I won't let Michael slip away like last time. I'll take this spot to college and marry him at the peak of my youth, the most promising man around. As for Haley, let her rot in this muddy pit." My pupils suddenly contracted. So Carol had reincarnated too. That phrase, "last life," revealed everything. No wonder I could never find that letter in my past life. She had destroyed it. And in this life, she was even more greedy. She didn't just want my man. She wanted to steal my future too. A chill shot from my feet to the crown of my head. If I remained as weak as in my past life, I'd walk straight into that tomb called marriage again, only to be poisoned at the dinner table by that deadbeat. No. Absolutely not. I bit my lip until I tasted a hint of salty blood. I wanted to storm out and reclaim my letter, but reason told me rushing in now would only alert them. I wanted that prestigious university spot, and I wanted them to be disgraced. I quietly retreated to the bedside, my hand accidentally brushing against the phone on the desk. It was bought with the secret stash of money Grandma had slipped me last year. I took a deep breath and activated the recording function. The conversation in the living room continued. "Mom, Michael's coming over later, right?" Carol asked shyly. "That kid just got hired as a low-level clerk in town. He's broke now, but as your past life would say, he's bound for greatness." Carrie calculated. "I'll tell him later that Haley didn't get into college and wants to marry young. He's a newcomer from out of town, he'll jump at the chance. Then we'll lock Haley up until the wedding's over." I aimed the camera at the door crack with a cold smile. Carrie, since you two love acting so much, I'll give you the biggest stage in town." I saved the recording and left the room. I didn't go looking for Michael. That murderer wasn't worth my time. I dialed a number instead. "Hello, is this the Ivy League admissions office? I need to verify an acceptance list. My name is Haley ... After confirming the details, I was certain my name was clearly on the list. The one Carol held was nothing but stolen goods obtained through underhanded means. If you want to play the impersonation game, I'll make sure the whole world sees how this charade ends. I transferred the video to my computer, editing out the supernatural dialogue about reincarnation. I kept only the parts where they plotted to impersonate me at university and planned to lock me up and force me into marriage. I didn't just send it to the university's reporting email. I also strategically posted it in our family's grand family group chat and on social media. The headline I crafted was chilling, shocking. Biological mother plots illegal detention of younger daughter to favor eldest, selling her elite university spot. After posting everything, I watched the progress bar tick on the screen, my eyes cold as ice. Carol, Michael, the blood debt you owed me in my past life? This lifetime will settle every single cent. When I climbed back through the window into my room, night had fallen. A hurried knock sounded at the door. "Haley, come eat." Carrie's voice carried a hint of insincere flattery. I smoothed my hair, rubbed my eyes, and opened the door, feigning sleepiness and sorrow. In the living room, besides Carrie and Carol, sat a figure I never wanted to see again in this lifetime, Michael. He was still a spirited young man then, wearing a faded white shirt, gazing tenderly at Carol. When he saw me emerge, a flicker of disgust and wariness crossed Michael's eyes, but he quickly masked it, putting on a caring facade. "Haley, I heard you didn't get in." "Don't be too upset," Michael said insincerely. I looked at him, a single thought burning in my mind. "Michael, this lifetime, I'll make you witness how your so-called true love drags you into the deepest hell. Is that so?" I lowered my head, hiding the sneer at the corner of my mouth. "That's truly unfortunate." Carrie smiled as she took my hand. "Haley, it's okay if you didn't get in. Michael said he doesn't mind. He wants to marry you as soon as possible. Look, the date is already set next month ... I glanced at Carol. She was bowing her head to drink her soup, but I could feel her greedy, triumphant gaze fixed on me. "All right," I murmured softly. All three of them froze simultaneously, clearly not expecting me to agree so readily. "But," I lifted my head, flashing an exceptionally bright smile, "before the wedding, I'd like to host a dinner for all the elders in the family, and also celebrate Carol getting into that prestigious university. What do you say?" Carrie and Carol exchanged glances, their eyes brimming with wild joy. They thought I'd finally accepted my fate. What they didn't know was that just moments ago, my phone had exploded with replies from the family group chat and an acceptance email from the university admissions office. I stared at Michael's face, feigning deep emotion, silently counting down. 3, 2, 1. Ring. Carrie's phone rang. It was her uncle. Immediately after, calls from her aunt, uncle, and cousins, everyone began ringing one after another. Carrie answered, barely getting out a hello, before the furious shout on the other end reached me clearly. "Carrie, have you no shame? You actually want Carol to take Haley's place at school. You're going to sell Haley to Michael. The videos are going viral in the group chat. You're a disgrace to our family." Carrie's face drained instantly, and her phone clattered to the floor. Carol jumped to her feet, eyes wide with terror. "Mom, what's wrong?" I sat down gracefully at the dining table, picked up a piece of bread, took a bite, and gave Michael a faint smile as he stared dumbfounded. Outside the window, the neighbors' murmurs of discussion were already faintly audible. "This time around, I'll make you wish you were dead." Kaylee's phone fell to the floor, its screen cracking like a spiderweb, but she didn't even have time to feel sorry for it. The entire living room fell into a deathly silence, the sense of control they'd once held slipping away like sand through their fingers. I watched them, my heart pounding wildly, not from fear, but from excitement. I feigned utter devastation, clutching my face as I stumbled back to my room. Slamming the door shut, I locked it behind me. But I didn't cry. I quickly slipped on my headphones, connecting to the miniature listening device I'd secretly tucked into the sofa cushions that afternoon purchased with my long-saved allowance from the town electronics store, originally meant to deter burglars, but now used against a thief within the family. A crackling static filled the headphones, followed by Michael's voice, low and almost menacing. Damn it, how did she know about the recording? She's never been this smart before. Michael's voice carried a coldness unnatural for his age. Michael, forget about that for now. Carol screamed. Did you hear her? She says she sent the video to the entire family and the university. If the admissions office revokes my spot, my life is ruined. Calm down, Carol. Michael's voice suddenly turned icy, tinged with a chilling world weariness. This time, I won't let you fade away like you did last time. That spot was always yours. Haley's just a thief who stole your life. My hand jerked violently. This time, last time, my suspicions were confirmed. Michael had been reborn too. You single quotes reborn too. Carol's voice sounded both terrified and ecstatic. So when you confessed to me at dinner earlier, it was because you remembered our past life. Of course I remember, Michael said tenderly. I could practically picture his phony expression. In our past life, your mother forced Haley to marry me. I was just a penniless clerk back then. I dared not resist. I thought Haley truly loved me, but it wasn't until your deathbed that I learned how much you suffered to make our union possible. That bitch Haley, she stole my wife's identity for 10 years. This lifetime, I'll make her repay everything she owes you. I laughed coldly in the room. What a touching true love story. In my past life, I worked to pay for his education, endured the poorest days with him, yet in his eyes, that became stealing. That kind-hearted Carol he speaks of. In our past life, she only gave him up because she despised his poverty. Now that he has past life memories and knows he'll become wealthy, suddenly it's mutual affection. So what do we do now? Carol demanded viciously. She's already posted the video in the family group and online. I just saw relatives going crazy in the group chat. Let her post it, Michael snorted coldly. Online backlash can be manipulated. Just insist she's jealous of you and fabricated the video due to mental instability. Keep her quiet for now. Once that plan kicks in, she never get another chance to speak. I pulled off my headphones, my gaze sharp as a blade. Want to flip public opinion? Pretend ignorance to placate me? Fine, I'll play along with your charade. The next morning, I pushed open the door, my eyes red and puffy from a sleepless night. Kaylee sat at the dining table, surprisingly not hurling insults at me. Instead, she forced an ugly, strained smile. Haley, awake? Mom was confused last night. It was just a joke. Look, your offer letter is right here. I saved it for you. She pushed the already opened acceptance letter, its edges slightly creased, toward me. I knew they only brought it out as a last resort. But I timidly took it, whispering, I'm sorry, Mom. I acted impulsively last night. I shouldn't have posted that video. I was just so scared. Oh, family matters aren't worth arguing about, Kelly said, patting my hand with feigned warmth, though her eyes held a hint of malice. Quick, delete everything you posted online. I'll handle explaining it to the elders. Okay, I'll delete it now. I obediently pulled out my phone and tapped a few times in front of her. But what I actually did was back up the entire hour-long recording, including Michael and Carol's conversation last night about rebirth and their plan to get revenge on me to the cloud and set it to send automatically. After finishing that disgusting breakfast, I made an excuse to leave and headed straight to the town library. In this crowded, public place, I logged into my social media accounts. Instead of deleting the video, I posted an update with the caption, Mom says she'd give me my spot back if I marry Michael. What should I do? I really want to go to college. The comments section exploded instantly. Good grief. What era is this? Arranged marriages and spot trading still exist. Who is this Michael guy? Let's dox him. I've already emailed Ivy League universities to report this. That family background is terrifying. Not only that, I strategically targeted the video to Michael's small-town office homepage. After finishing all this, I returned home just as Michael stood at my doorstep. He still wore that crisp, clean shirt, holding a bouquet of wildflowers, looking deeply affectionate. "Haley, I need to talk to you." He stepped forward, reaching for my hand. Fighting the urge to slap him, I shrank back a step. "Michael, I can't marry you. I need to go to school. If you're worried about tuition, I can help." His eyes were so sincere they could almost fool God. "Just marry me, and I'll give you my entire salary. Haley, I truly love you." Seeing his smug face, the last remnants of affection from my past life turned to ashes in my heart, replaced by endless disgust. He loves me? He loves the Haley from my past life, the one who worked herself to the bone for him, only to be sent to her death with a bowl of poison. "I'll think about it," I murmured, my voice barely above a whisper. Michael smiled with satisfaction, his expression tinged with the arrogance of a plan unfolding exactly as he'd envisioned. He thought I was still that fool blinded by family ties and romantic love, believing that a mere crumb of kindness would lure me into his trap. But I knew. Just moments ago, the official Ivy League account had commented under my post, "We have received the relevant reports. The university will not tolerate any impersonation. We will conduct a thorough investigation into this candidate's admission eligibility." I watched the sunset behind Michael, my heart turning to ice. Step 1. Shred your hypocrisy. Step 2. I'll make you tear each other apart in a quagmire called true love until you're shattered to pieces. Carol, Michael, welcome to hell. The next few days, the atmosphere at home felt eerily tense, like a tornado gathering strength. Carol began frantically searching my room, convinced I stashed my passport and that crucial acceptance letter under the mattress or atop the wardrobe. She even rummaged through my backpack while I showered, finding only a few worn textbooks. What she didn't know was that on the second day after my rebirth, I'd pretended to go downtown for coffee and instead taken a 2-hour bus ride to Grandma's house. In that wooden cottage filled with the scent of baking, I locked all my documents, the acceptance letter, and the backup hard drive packed with audio and video evidence into the safe in Grandma's room. Grandma was the only sane person left in this family. Stroking my hair, she said, "Haley, fly away, don't look back." Of course I wouldn't look back. What I wanted to see was this pack of demons burning themselves to death behind me. Only 5 days remained until university started. That afternoon, Carrie unexpectedly entered my room carrying a glass of freshly squeezed orange juice. Her face wore the most hypocritical smile I'd ever seen in my life. "Haley, we're heading to Walker Farm outside town to buy some fresh beef and vegetables. We'll throw you a little celebration for getting into college," is Mom's way of apologizing. She handed me the juice. "Drink up. Get some vitamins." I stared at the orange liquid in the glass, knowing exactly what was going on, but I didn't refuse. I took the glass, pretended to take a big gulp, but actually held the liquid in my mouth. The moment she turned away, I spat it all into a potted plant beside my desk. Then, I obediently followed them to the car. The road grew increasingly remote, the asphalt giving way to a bumpy gravel path. I knew this was the route to Walker Farm, the most isolated private estate in town, owned by Kevin, a man in his 50s, recently widowed, an alcoholic with violent tendencies. "Mom, are we there yet?" I feigned drowsiness, tilting my head against the window. "Almost there, sweetie. Go back to sleep." Kelly's voice was as cold as ice. With my eyes closed, I felt the car come to a stop. Instantly, a rough hand seized my shoulder. It was Kevin. "So this is the college girl. She's got more flavor than that Carol, all right?" Kevin's coarse, raspy voice carried the stench of cheap tobacco. "She's yours now." Carol's voice brimmed with unhidden glee. "Just lock her up here until after the semester starts. She never get that spot back. Then she be your wife, do with her as you please." The next thing I felt was a heavy blow to the back of my head. This time, I truly blacked out. When I opened my eyes again, I was in a dimly lit barn. My limbs were bound with coarse hemp rope, the air thick with the scent of dry hay and rotting manure. "Awake?" A familiar voice echoed from the shadows. Michael leaned against the barn door frame, twirling a lighter in his hand. The flickering flame cast a sinister glow on his face. He sauntered over like some savior, crouching before me with that sickeningly pitying gaze. "Haley, look what you've done to yourself." He reached to touch my face, but I turned away in disgust. His expression darkened, then twisted into a cold smirk. "The whole town thinks you ran away from home because of the pressure. Kevin's got the priest ready. Tonight, he'll force you to register as married. Your dreams of a prestigious university are shattered." I stared at him, my teeth grinding. "This was your idea." "No, I'm saving you." Michael spread his arms self-righteously. "Haley, if you promise me one thing, I'll take you away right now. Transfer your college spot to Carol, admit the video was fake, and then come with me to another city. I'll give you a home. I'll treat you well for the rest of my life. Isn't being my wife better than being tortured to death by Kevin?" Staring at his utterly hypocritical face, my stomach churned violently. In my past life, he'd been the same. When I collapsed from exhaustion, he'd bring me a bowl of medicine, whispering tenderly, "Drink it. I only want what's best for you. Be your wife." I laughed, the sound echoing eerily in the empty barn. "Michael, your Carol is waiting for you outside. How could you possibly waste your breath here with me?" Michael's face twisted into a savage grimace. He seized my throat and snarled, "Don't push your luck. Think you have a choice? Refuse, and tonight Kevin will tear you to pieces on this haystack." He flung me aside, stormed out, and slammed the barn door shut with a heavy lock. Lying on the cold, hard ground, I listened to his receding footsteps as my eyes grew wild. Did they think confiscating my phone and binding my limbs made me a lamb led to slaughter? They forgot this farm was where I played as a child? I knew its layout better than Kevin himself. With great effort, I dragged myself toward an old farm machine in the barn corner. A rusted metal plate protruded there. Ignoring the searing pain, I let the edge slice through my skin, repeatedly scraping it against the rope binding my wrist. 1 minute, 10 minutes, an hour. When the rope finally snapped, my wrists were drenched in blood. I didn't rush to escape. I knew Kevin's hounds were outside, and Michael guarded the exit. I didn't want a simple escape. I wanted total destruction. With only 3 days left before school started, I had no time for hide and seek. I searched the barn and found several spare barrels of herbicide and gasoline. Beneath a pile of discarded fertilizer bags, flammable substances the farmer kept to tackle stubborn weeds. I doused the dry haystack with gasoline, letting it spread along the barn and out into the endless expanse of mature fields. It was the eve of harvest season, the fields filled with golden dry crops that would ignite at the slightest spark. I intended to bring this drama to its climax. I flicked open the lighter Michael had dropped earlier. "Since you all want to play with fire, let's burn everything clean together." With a deafening roar, flames shot up like a fiery dragon. Heat waves crashed over me. Amid the chaos, I shattered the tall rear window of the barn and leaped out. Behind me, a sky of crimson light illuminated half the night. I knew the blaze would draw the entire town's attention. I knew the fire trucks and police were already on their way. And I knew that when I reappeared before the world, I would no longer be the missing girl, but a survivor who had escaped murder and illegal confinement. And Michael, Carol, Kelly, and that farmer, you would be consumed by the flames of justice as the arsonists and kidnappers responsible for this inferno. I ran toward the highway, wind at my back, silhouetted against the firelight. In that moment, I felt the soul of my former, lowly self finally find true liberation in the flames. The heat wave rolled behind me like a roaring beast, completely devouring the barn that symbolized confinement and humiliation. I stumbled toward the highway, my lungs burning with pain. In the distant night sky, the alternating red and blue lights of police sirens sliced through the darkness. "There, someone's coming out." A flashlight beam swept across my face. I collapsed onto the roadside grass, clothes charred black, wrists stained with blood, looking like a survivor crawling out of hell. Firefighters and officers rushed toward me. I pushed away the blanket they offered. My first words, "Call the police. Carrie and Michael. They tried to kill me. In the police station's isolation room, I used a payphone to dial my grandmother's number. "Grandma, come get me." I managed only a few words before tears finally broke through. 3 hours later, an old but clean Chevrolet pulled up outside the station. Grandma pushed past the officers and rushed inside, pulling me into her arms. She didn't ask if I started the fire. Instead, she displayed unprecedented firmness in front of the officers trying to take statements. My lawyer is on the way. Now, I'm taking my granddaughter home. We're leaving this hellhole full of lunatics and murderers. That night, I bid farewell to what had been called home. On the highway leaving town, I saw Michael pinned against the hood of a police car. He roared in my direction, his once handsome face contorted like a demon in the lights. He couldn't stop me. The mad hatred in his eyes told me he'd never let this go. But he had no chance now. Grandma's city was a 5-hour drive from the town, with endless beaches and bustling commercial streets. She wasn't just the most level-headed person in the family, she was also the wealthiest. Haley, listen. Grandma sat by the living room fireplace, holding several legal documents. That house, the one your mother lives in now, has always been in my name. Back then, I let her live there because I felt she was struggling raising you two alone. But now I see she doesn't deserve it. Grandma acted with lightning speed. She immediately revoked her right to live in the house and listed it for sale as quickly as possible. This money, combined with my savings, will be enough for you to finish Ivy League school and even buy your own apartment. Grandma pressed a bank card into my hand. Go do what you want. I'll clean up the rest of the mess. Soon, news from the small town arrived that made me feel utterly relieved. Carrie and Carol were forcibly evicted from the house. Carrie never imagined that after playing the role of mistress for a lifetime, she'd end up kicked out. Due to insufficient evidence for false imprisonment, Michael pinned all the blame on Kevin, who had already fled. They avoided jail time, but their reputations in that town were utterly ruined. Carol's dream of attending a prestigious university shattered into dust. Without a home, she could only move into Michael's musty little apartment with a few belongings, looking disheveled and defeated. Carrie fared even worse. Carol and Michael now spent their days either blaming each other or having wild sex, leaving no room for her as the third wheel. Carrie had no choice but to carry her bags and start drifting between relatives' homes. Most of these relatives were equally destitute and snobbish, taking her in only because she was formerly related. On day 1, she complained the couch was too hard. By day 3, they complained she ate too much. By day 5, she was dumped on the street, luggage and all. I stared at the photo my relatives sent of Kelly crying by the roadside, feeling utterly indifferent, even tempted to pop open a bottle of champagne. Yet amidst the ruins of this small town, another person observed it all. Thomas, my former neighbor, that quiet childhood friend who'd always stare at me blankly from behind his fence. He witnessed Kelly's downfall, saw Carol and Michael bickering in their cheap apartment, and heard their curses directed at me. Haley, you've really changed, Thomas murmured to himself, a faint curve touching his lips. Unlike others, he didn't see me as a pitiable victim. Instead, he found me more intriguing than ever. Inside that musty little apartment, Michael and Carol plotted their revenge, waiting for my graduation to seize my life and hand it over to Carol. Meanwhile, I stood bathed in the sunlight of a new city, pulling my suitcase toward my new school. The wind carried the scent of sea salt. Michael, Carol, Carrie rot away in that dark, damp little house. My brilliant life has only just begun. Freshman year unfolded exactly as I'd imagined, busy and fulfilling. In the finance department of an Ivy League school, I was like a parched sponge, frantically soaking up knowledge I never had the chance to touch in my past life. Without Kelly's screams or Michael's demands, I discovered for the first time how sweet it was to breathe free air. Yet demons always return when you think you've shaken them off, sniffing their way back to you. It was a late autumn Friday afternoon. The campus plaza bustled with club activities, crowds milling about. I was carrying books toward the library when a sharp, familiar scream pierced the campus's tranquility. It's her, that girl in the designer clothes. Everyone, come see this cold-blooded monster. I froze in my tracks, my blood seeming to freeze for an instant. Carol and Michael stood by the fountain. Compared to 6 months ago, they looked so downtrodden I barely recognized them. Carol wore a crumpled, cheap synthetic skirt, her hair dull and brittle, her eyes burning with hysterical madness. Michael, once a man full of ambition, now sported a scruffy beard, his gaze filled with the desperate ferocity of someone at the end of his rope. Haley, you arsonist! You burned down Walker Farm to steal my college spot. You kicked your own mother out onto the streets to live as a vagrant. Carol pointed at me, wailing to the gathered professors and students, tears streaming down her face. Everyone's been deceived by her. She looks innocent, but inside she's more venomous than a snake. Michael chimed in, his voice filled with grief and indignation. As her fiancé, she schemed to climb the social ladder by persuading her grandmother to revoke our property rights, leaving us homeless. Such a morally bankrupt individual has no place in this sacred campus. The crowd began whispering among themselves, countless complex gazes turning toward me. I clenched my backpack straps, ready to fight back, when a sudden commotion erupted from the crowd. What an entertaining amateur performance! A deep, magnetic voice tinged with disdain cut through the noise from behind. The crowd parted automatically, revealing a man in a tailored three-piece suit, his posture impeccably straight. It was Thomas. He appeared even more handsome and mature than I remembered, radiating the refined elegance of someone at the top. A stack of documents in his hand, his leather shoes clicked sharply against the granite pavement. Thomas cast a cold glance at Carol and Michael, who looked as bedraggled as beggars, then addressed the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Haley's neighbor and a witness to both the arson and the family dispute. Every word these two have spoken is a lie bordering on criminal slander. He opened the folder in his hand, revealing several printed police statements and court eviction orders. The truth is, this woman and her mother were disowned by the family for attempting to illegally confine Haley and take her place in school. As for the arson, that was Haley's act of self-defense when they kidnapped her to the farm and threatened her life. This police investigation report makes it crystal clear the suspect is the very farmer they colluded with to sell Haley. Thomas's face radiated conviction, and the solemn expressions of his black-clad assistants standing behind him formed a stark contrast to the deranged couple across from them. As for you, Thomas stepped toward Michael, his imposing presence forcing Michael to stumble backward involuntarily. If you dare come near Haley again, my legal team will ensure you spend the rest of your life behind bars. Now, get out of here. Security arrived swiftly, dragging the screaming Carol and the fleeing Michael off campus. I stood rooted to the spot, my heart pounding like a drum. Thomas turned, the icy glint in his eyes melting instantly into a gentle expression. Long time no see, Haley. Thomas ... What are you doing here? I asked, my voice filled with surprise and delight. He gave a casual smile. Job transfer. My new company is in the financial tower across from your school. I heard you were here, so I dropped by to see you. He didn't mention how many connections he'd pulled to relocate his entire team from another city for this drop-by. In the days that followed, I became a legend in the finance department, not only because my grades topped the class in specialized courses, but also because of the exceptional guardian angel by my side. Thomas often waited at the school gate in the evenings, driving his understated yet luxurious black sedan, taking me to the city's finest hidden gem restaurants. His professional advice proved more precise than my advisors. By the end of my sophomore year, the department chair personally recommended me for an internship at Deutsche Financial Group, the city's premier institution. Haley, the project lead, has a peculiar temperament, but if you can endure it, your future is limitless, my advisor cautioned. On my first day at the internship, I spotted Thomas in the top-floor partner conference room. It turned out his investment firm was Deutsche Financial Group's largest strategic partner. He never gave me special treatment, but when I worked late into the night, a steaming cup of coffee would always appear on my desk. Or he'd be waiting punctually at the building entrance, escorting me back to the small apartment Grandma had bought for me. In stark contrast to my rapid ascent, Michael and Carol's true love life was spiraling into a catastrophic disaster. Without my income to support them, and having lost Grandma's apartment, the two were now crammed into that leaky, dilapidated flat. Michael, reborn into this life, realized that without Haley's behind-the-scenes management and support from his past life, his meager salary couldn't possibly sustain his ambitions. As for Carol, who had once scorned Michael for his poverty, she now revisited their past only to find him still destitute, and his temper had turned violent. What else can you do besides complain? Michael roared at the pile of unwashed dishes. Haley never made me do this filthy work. Then go find your Haley. See if she even acknowledge you now, Carol screamed, hurling a pillow at his face. Such arguments erupted daily. Finally, while moonlighting at an upscale bar hoping to snag a wealthy husband, Carol met a nouveau rich heir nicknamed Little Bob. He drove a sports car and tossed out a few $100 bills with casual ease, completely ensnaring Carol's vanity. On a drizzly afternoon, Carol swiped Michael's last savings, left a note reading, "We're not right for each other," and ran off with a nouveau rich guy without looking back. Kneeling in the empty room, Michael stared at the mess scattered across the floor. It finally dawned on him, without Haley he was nothing. And Carol, whom he believed to be his true love, was nothing more than a poppy flower that bloomed wherever the money flowed. The love in his eyes extinguished completely, replaced by a twisted madness, a desire to drag everyone down to hell with him. Michael was like a trapped beast rotting in a sewer. Carol's departure had taken his last shred of sanity and the last vestige of dignity he clung to in this city. When the landlord evicted him from that musty little apartment, all he had left was a crumpled newspaper listing the outstanding interns at a Deutsche Financial Group. My photo prominently featured at the top. In the photo, I wore a crisp white shirt, my smile confident and composed. To him, that smile became the most scathing mockery. "It's you. Haley, you ruined everything for me," he growled at the paper, his eyes bloodshot. The arrogance of his rebirth had evaporated. He'd believed clutching the script of his future would elevate him above others, only to discover that without the selfless support of the Haley from his past life, he couldn't even navigate basic workplace rules. He blamed every failure on my betrayal. That day marked the final day of my internship. The company was about to announce the list of interns who would be retained, a decision that meant securing a respectable, high-paying full-time position after graduation. I should have been in the office handling the final handover documents, but my supervisor asked me to make one last field visit. Less than 10 minutes after I left the company, Michael stormed into that heavily guarded financial tower. Using that newspaper and his detailed knowledge of me from his past life, he lied that he was my fiancé, even fabricating a melodramatic story about Haley getting pregnant and then being abandoned. He fooled the intern at the front desk. When he stormed into the main office area and didn't see me, his pent-up madness erupted completely. "Where's Haley? Make her come out to see me." He pulled a sharp folding knife from his coat and brandished it in the air. Screams erupted throughout the office. Thomas happened to emerge from a meeting room at that moment and recognized Michael instantly. His gaze froze like ice, yet instead of immediately calling security, he strode purposefully toward Michael. Thomas knew that if this were merely a case of trespassing, Michael would be out in a few days at most. To eliminate this threat permanently, he needed to pin a serious crime on him that Michael couldn't walk away from. "She's not here," Thomas said, his voice eerily calm. He even deliberately looked at Michael with a contemptuous gaze. "Look at yourself now, Michael. You're not worthy of a single strand of Haley's hair." Michael was utterly enraged. He roared and lunged at Thomas. Thomas could have easily dodged, but as the blade slashed toward him, he subtly shifted his stance, allowing the cold steel to rip through his suit and deeply slice his left forearm. Blood instantly stained his expensive custom shirt. "Thomas!" colleagues gasped. Michael froze in shock, staring at the pool of blood. Before he could flee, security guards who had rushed to the scene pinned him to the ground. Intentionally stabbing someone with a knife, especially a billionaire investor who had made outstanding contributions to the city's economy, left Michael's fate clear. He was sentenced to 15 years, effectively spending the rest of his life behind bars. When I burst into the hospital room, tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. "Are you out of your mind, Thomas?" I stared at his bandaged arm, my voice trembling. "You could have avoided this. Why did you do it?" Thomas leaned against the pillow, his face pale, yet a triumphant smirk played at the corners of his mouth. He beckoned me closer with a finger. Haley, don't cry," he murmured, a hint of mischief in his voice. "Actually, I should thank you." The company executives were still debating whether to give me that senior partner position. But after this incident, I became the hero who protected colleagues and fought off criminals. My reputation skyrocketed. The board just called, I got promoted. I froze, then angrily punched his shoulder. But that was reckless. What if he'd stabbed you in the heart? "I don't need you risking your life for my peace of mind." Thomas's smile faded. He reached out and clasped my hand tightly. His gaze was deep and intense, as if he could pull me into it entirely. For you, I've never once regretted it, he murmured. Haley, from the moment I saw you set that fire in that small town, I knew I never wanted to let go again. I'll give you a future where you're absolutely safe, even if it costs me a drop of my blood. The faint, ambiguous distance between us shattered completely. I kissed him, and amidst the scent of antiseptic, I felt the most solid sense of security I'd known in 2 lifetimes. 3 years later, I had graduated and secured a position at that top-tier financial firm. Drawing on the resilience from my past life and the knowledge from this one, I became a well-regarded financial expert in the industry. I brought Grandma to the city. In that spacious apartment overlooking the sea, she tended to the plants on the balcony daily, her complexion glowing with health. As for Kelly, she was finally driven out by all her relatives. On that bitterly cold winter night, she called me, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe, saying she was freezing to death. I didn't let her into my home, but rented her a tiny 20-square-meter apartment in our hometown. I'll pay your rent monthly. My voice was cold as iron over the phone. But that's all. Don't try to find me. Don't try to contact Grandma. This is the last shred of mercy I'll show you. News of Carol reached me by chance during a charity event. That socialite, who once believed marrying a nouveau riche would elevate her status, had been discarded, like trash after suffering domestic violence that shattered her mind. Now residing in a government shelter, she spent her days muttering to the walls, spouting delusions like, "I'm a prestigious university graduate, and Michael will come save me." The lowly unlucky Haley from my past life, the one blackmailed by family ties, had vanished completely. In her place stood an elite woman on the deck of a Mediterranean cruise ship, raising a glass of champagne to the sea breeze. This was my celebratory trip after being promoted to manager. Thomas stood beside me, a name Wall Street could no longer ignore. As the sun set, the Mediterranean Sea blazed with vibrant orange and purple hues. Thomas suddenly dropped to one knee. No elaborate staging, just that sapphire diamond ring sparkling brilliantly in the sunset. "Haley, you've endured too much hardship in your past life," he gazed at me tenderly. "For the decades ahead, may I be the one to protect you. This time, there's no scheming, no replacing anyone. Only me, Thomas, loving Haley with all my heart." I looked at him, my eyes misting over. This time, it wasn't to escape family, fulfill someone else's expectations, or be swept along by fate. I reached out my hand, my smile brighter than the sun. "I do." This was my own choice, a marriage built on respect, equality, and deep love. Waves lapped against the hull as the distant lighthouse flashed. Hell was far behind, and my heaven had only just begun. More dramatic love stories coming. Subscribe if you're into this kind of mess. Tell us what kind of story you would like to watch.